I'm really bad at Total Warhammer 3. It is a very complex game, much like its prequels. It's fairly difficult. I don't know what I'm doing, but I did dabble with the second game. Yeah, it's an improved version of that. It feels really good. If you want more details, you can go check out Mandalore's review. He puts out an hour and 10-minute review on it. It's a little buggy. Every now and then you'll go click on something and your unit will go crazy and freak out, and the AI doesn't seem to know how to deal with walls at all.
Pathing?
Yeah, just pathing can get real nuts. I discovered a fairly massive bug this morning that drove me crazy. So you know how in some games they'll be like, set your resolution to 4K, but then use the resolution modifier percentage thing that says, but only render it at 66% if you want 1440p, or 50% if you want 1080p. I discovered today that graphics option is completely broken, like 100% completely broken, in that if you use that feature at all and set it to a resolution equivalent, the game will run like 20-30% worse than the equivalent resolution.
Oh.
So I was running it at 4K, but then I kicked the resolution slider down to 66% or 67%, which would be 1440p, and would run at like 40 or 50. And then I just set my resolution to 1440p, and it was running at 80 and 90. So don't use that option. It is broken. Just change your real resolution.
I have a question.
Ask me your question.
And this is coming from deep inside the soul.
Ask it away.
Why is the official name of the game not Total Warhammer 3, but in fact Total War Warhammer 3?
Because Creative Assembly's legal department and
I
Warhammer's legal department,
they're separate brands. I know.
So I want to say before Total Warhammer 2 came out,
yeah,
they did like a roundtable Q&A with like the leads, and they had like the literal arm on the table, and they're like, listen, we know. You can call it whatever you want. Everyone's gonna know what game you're talking about. But
you cannot fuck with these logos.
It is Total War Warhammer 3, or what have you.
Total Hammer War.
That has absolutely been a long time thing of just, this is so silly. Most people just call it fucking Warhammer and then the number. Which is wild, because it's so much more popular than all the other Warhammer games that it's like it's, oh yeah, I played Warhammer 2. Oh, do you mean, no, I
Total
mean
Warhammer,
the Creative Assembly Total War game.
But it's a combination of two separate brands that both have war in them.
It's like if the DBZ Budokai series was just called DBZ 1 and DBZ 2 and DBZ 3, which it should have been.
So, if there were, let's say Capcom teamed up with Tecmo Koei to create an Onimusha Warriors game.
Right.
What should that game be called? It's... If you don't call it Onimuso, you're doing it wrong.
How did you think that up so quickly?
I was looking for any example of a thing that had Mu in it to connect the two together, for two companies to put their brands together. If you don't call it Onimuso, you've already fucked up. So this is why I'm like, Anyway.
But yeah, no, played a lot of it. The game's great. Aside from some graphical shenanigans, all the additions are really nice, though there are some things that are very buggy. My favorite faction in Warhammer, Nurgle, the Disease Boys, are unfortunately, for me personally, by far the weirdest and most complicated faction to use. So the faction I really want to play as really bad is super hard to get your head around, which
Oh,
sucks
hell
for
yeah.
me because
Get
I
that.
can barely handle like a normal human army.
Shout outs to that Sea Viper mentality.
Though there is definitely like this game's going to be around for a while. Woolie, have you ever heard of the Mortal Empires campaign?
No.
So they always planned the Total Warhammer games to be a trilogy, and as such, they implemented something called Mortal Empires. And the idea is that you have your regular campaign, and in 3, it's like you got to get to the Chaos Realms and help a bear out or whatever. In Mortal Empires, it's more of a classical like domination style victory. But whatever faction and specific general you pick is going to have a specific objective, like, oh, go capture that, or get a certain amount of space, or survive X amount of turns, what have you, what have you. The thing with Mortal Empires is that for Warhammer 3, it's all 8 of the factions that are currently in the game, any of the DLC factions that they add in the future for Total Warhammer 3, and they'll be placed on a unique map, and any of the races for any of the games that you own. So
it's
of right
reading
now,
your like your saves
your
or your
history.
your ownership. Is it
Yeah.
tied to your like
Your account?
Your shared account. Okay.
Yeah. So as of right now, like I think there's like $400 worth of Warhammer DLC, because it's like there's the game. The game has like 5 or 6 races, and then you have, do you want the Wood Elves? Do you want the fucking? Do you want the pirate vampires? Do you want the Tomb Kings, etc.?
Mm-hmm.
And in a couple months, 2 to 5 months, they're going to put out the combined map, which is going to be the globe, which will include every faction that has ever existed in this series.
Okay, because I was about to say, do people feel fucked over by like knowing that there are lots of races that are not available to them in the game?
Yeah, because the games all come with certain races. Like the only way to play as the Empires in Warhammer 1. Unless you own Warhammer 1, at which point you can play them in the Mortal Empires campaign. So with the way the game is like a little undercooked right now, there would absolutely be no harm in waiting for that campaign to come out and see if they've fixed some of these. Like there's some UI issues, there's some graphical issues, there's a couple pathing issues. Mandalore mentioned something about, it seems like the cavalry charge stuff is not being calculated correctly. So you'll have cavalry hit like a unit from the back, and then the cavalry will melt, which is not how that's supposed to go.
Okay.
But yeah, you're not in a rush to fucking get this. It's going to be like supported and actively added to for like 3 years. I'm really enjoying my time with it though, but I suck. That's my main problem, is that I suck shit at it.
How many backlocked races are you talking about here?
Okay, hold on. Give me a second. So in the current game right now, right, the Total Warhammer 3 that exists right now, you have Undivided Chaos, and then you have Khorne, Slaanesh, Tzeentch, and Nurgle, which are the 4 Chaos races. You have Kislev, which is Warhammer Russia. Then you have Cathay, which is Warhammer China. And then you have the Ogres, right? Those are the 8 that you get in the box right now. You play with, that's the campaign. If you had, God, playable factions. God, I need a list here.
I'm seeing 69 in total.
Okay. So introduced in Total War 1 is Dwarves, Greenskins, the Empire, Vampire Counts, Warriors of Chaos, Beastmen, Bretonnia, Wood Elves, and Norsca. In Warhammer 2, you have Dark Elves, High Elves, Lizard People, Skaven, Tomb Kings, and the Vampire Coast. And then in 3, you have Cathay, Kislev, Khorne, Nurgle, Slaanesh, Tzeentch, Ogre Kingdoms, and Demons. However, each of those races will have a different type of army depending on the amount of what's called a legendary lord. It's basically a general. So, like, the elves have, like, 6 different generals. And they all start at different points on the map. And they all have different mechanics associated with their campaign. Like, there's one orc unit that is a cook, and his whole thing is getting food to put in a pot for a buff fucking machine.
Okay, so you're not
unique to just him.
So if you just buy the game and you don't have any of the older ones, so you don't have access to all those races, you're still drowning in races.
Oh, dude, Woolie, I spent 35 hours on a Kislev campaign that I failed before getting halfway through.
Oh my god. Okay. Okay.
This is the digital Warhammer equivalent of building your model train set in your fucking basement.
Here's a question. How does a game like this, and to some degree, let's say like League of Legends, right, where there's like over 150 characters, how do they recommend or like suggest one learn or get a feel for who they like with a list that big?
In Warhammer
what's the recommended
3,
path?
One of the easiest ways. So the best thing about Warhammer 3, and I mean this without irony, I'm not even joking. The absolute best thing about Warhammer 3 is that it is the first game in the series to have a real tutorial.
Okay.
And in the real tutorial, it walks you through a very small, small scale campaign with the Kislev faction that has its own units and its own landmass, and it has story elements and like babies your ass through.
Okay.
Once you that's literally how I was able to get into it. I've bounced off this series both prior games. Couldn't get into it because I never got to the point where I felt like I knew what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
This tutorial genuinely helps. As for how to get good at it, how to figure out who you like. There's on the title, when you go to pick your race, there's like a fighting game screen that just has 8 races on it.
Oh no,
right
I
now.
know.
And it has very detailed descriptions of what type of ideas are.
Because I'm curious about like any game in any genre where the first choice a player has to make is from over 100.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about like what are the most successful ways of like making that not seem so daunting.
Well, hate to use this example because it's so cliche on this podcast.
And ask the subreddit is not a great answer.
Yeah, it's not. However, it's the second answer. The second answer is ask weirdos who already play. The first answer, well, you see, Woolie, it's just like fighting games.
Mm-hmm.
You find the race that looks cool on the box,
mm-hmm.
and then you play as them until you decide that it sucks shit,
mm-hmm.
and then you pick the second coolest.
I feel like there could be a whole like design class theory about like, again, when you hit the number of over 100 to pick from, you know, how much to show without overwhelming in terms of like highlighting someone and seeing this is what they're about, this is how cool they look, this is what this race kind of focuses on, and then even just like almost like you know, like when Overwatch you highlight and you just see like here's their 1 move, 2 move ult, you know, like bing bang boom.
For the 2 examples that you've used here are League of Legends and this. So in League of Legends, you're given the art of all the characters first, mm-hmm. and then when you click on them, you get to see what their moves are, mm-hmm. right? A couple of their moves, and it also describes their role, and that's what you have to go on. In Warhammer, it's very similar. You see their art, you click on them, you get to see their style, and you can also look at some of their units. Honestly, now that we're talking about it, and I made the joke of like it's like fighting games. No, actually, fighting games should be way more like this. There should be somewhere in Street Fighter or Guilty Gear where you can click on a character and it shows you a splash page with little videos of what their fucking moves look like and describes their overall play style.
Yep. Overwatch, like I said, like there is that little like Overwatch, but over like view that is the 3 moves, you know. There's the 2 abilities and the ult, and you just go, okay, sure, I can piece that together.
There'd be a lot more people who both did and did not pick Milia and Chip if there was a little video that showed this is what their character actually does, and it's fucking spam around like a psycho.
Now, the move list showing you a little video in Strive is a step up.
Yeah, it is.
And there's always better we can do. But like, yeah, that's definitely something that they could benefit from. But I'm the basis of my thought on this one is mainly about like 100 to choose from in anything is daunting.
Well, so here's the way that it works for Warhammer, this series anyway. It's been, hey, let's take Warhammer 2 for example. Did you buy Warhammer 2 on day of release? Well, do you want to play as the High Elves, the Dark Elves, the Lizards, or the Rats? And that's it. Just those 4. And then the Mortal Empires campaign will come out 2, 3, 4 months later. But originally, at the very start,
you had a smaller choice.
It's more limited, and they have extraordinarily well-defined roles, right? One is all straight lines, one is swarm, one is artillery, one is powerful units but small groups, etc.
Okay.
So yeah, that game's good. It's a little messy. I'm expecting a day 1 patch, though I can't get in contact with anybody at the devs to ask if there is one. But as it is right now, it's good, but it needs a little more time in the oven. The Creative Assembly games are really weird. They release like CRPGs in that it's out, and it'll be done in 18 months. It's not quite early access.
But it's let's start making money now.
There's a bunch of bugs that are still there, and all the factions aren't there, and the marquee game mode isn't there.
Yeah, I'm still deciding how to feel about that. I guess it's case by case because I enjoy getting a taste of Darkest Dungeon 2. But I definitely, now that I'm done with it, I'm just like, well, I'm done with it. One like held me in for like fucking months because of the gruel, you know?
It's one of those things that, like, I mean, you've worked in testing, you've worked in game release, right? The game's biggest bug right now, by far, that in other games would be, you know, a serious problem, is that enemies attacking your cities can't figure out how to path correctly past walls. So you just missile them down like assholes. And it's a bug that is explicitly in your favor always.
Affecting the balance.
So it's not the end of the world. You're not losing fights because of it. In fact, you're trouncing fights you probably shouldn't be able to win with it. Yeah.
I get piecemeal for some games, for some genres works good. But I guess, like, if you know what it is, if it's the type of game where like playing it early will get it out of your system and kill some of the fire about wanting to return to it by the time it's done, then it's probably a bad idea.
Oh no, the people who play these fucking games, it's like a fighting game or MMO.
Oh yeah,
like,
no.
level of
the
content.
dedication.
Like,
I'm well
it's
aware
so
of. Yeah.
stupid.
Like that. I mean, the entire Total War franchise is
Like it's one of those things. Like
yeah.
you talk to people and they're like, "Yeah, I've never beaten anything but 2 of the Rat campaigns. Best game ever." It's just like, okay. Good. It's a good game. I'm enjoying it. I'm playing a lot of it because I'm not playing Elden Ring, and I'm mad about that. But what am I gonna do? By the way, hey, heads up to anybody who doesn't want to get spoiled on Elden Ring. Retail copies are getting photographed in stores. So it is literally a matter of hours, if not days. Sorry, days if not hours, before that shit starts to pop off. And that's all I did with my week. If you want to check out more stuff, I'm going to be taking it easy this week. You go down to twitch.tv/PatStaresAt. I'm going to be doing some pre-recorded Pillars streams. I'm doing Pillars of Eternity too, but I'm doing them. I'm doing the opposite of what you do on your channel. I'm pre-recording LPs and then streaming the videos.
Ooh, weird. Okay.
Yeah. It's because it makes a completely different video. Particularly with something really, 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 really slow, like a CRPG. I played a episode of Pillars 2 the other day and spent 90 minutes in the character creator.
Good.
Which I feel like I would have felt like stressed to go faster if it was live.
Yeah, I know that invisible fucking pressure clock. But no, I approve of spending time in the character creator. Let them whine about it if they do.
It's genuinely really weird going back to that format because like my voice completely changes and how like it's I don't know how to describe it. It's completely different.
Dude, there's like how awesome is it when you're doing something like that is more like not progression, but it's stopping to smell the flowers. And you're enjoying yourself, and then a bunch of people are posting snore emotes. Like, how great does that feel, right?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, so, it's very different. It's very different.
Anyway, that's what's gonna be for me this week. And on Friday I'll be streaming Horizon because Horizon coming out. You know, Woolie, this is a total aside. I feel so bad for Guerrilla Games who make the Horizon. Because the Horizon Forbidden West is a PS exclusive that comes out 7 days before the Elden Ring. Which is of a similar genre, except it's higher profile.
It's going to take more than 7 days to beat it. Right.
Do you remember what game came out 5 days after Horizon 1?
Not fucking Sekiro or Dark Souls.
It was Breath of the Wild.
Oh, boy. Okay. Yeah.
So that's 2 for 2, where games within its own genre that are just higher profile than itself come out. And it's like, the Horizon 1 was good. The Horizon 2, I've been told, is good.
Yeah, so...
But I have people on my timeline going, who gives a shit?
It is...
I'm going to be playing Elden Ring.
This is the publisher's job, in my opinion. Publishers, there's a whole lot of stuff that you rightfully can go, what do you do, publisher? And one of those things is this. The publisher should be looking at that fucking calendar and picking optimal space to launch in. And clearing around other things that are going to be a direct problem or a direct, like, siphon against the audience that's going to have to spend money on your game or another game that's very similar that they want to play, you know?
So, I believe in both cases, Horizon set its date and stuck to it, and the games in question were delayed to immediately after them.
Okay.
And I'm like...
What can you do then?